The governor of Oklahoma has just signed the most restrictive abortion law in the country, outlawing the practice. Now, they've already signed the bill making providing an abortion a felony. But this new bill will allow individuals to sue anyone who aids or abets in an abortion. My friends, as we talk about civil war and people like Robert Reich, a prominent liberal, discuss the notion that abortion may be the catalyst for some kind of civil war, or at the very least, create some kind of peaceful divorce. Taking a look at what's happening in this country with both extreme ends, from banning abortion to unrestricted abortion access, paints a very disturbing picture. I think we're heading dangerously close to something very serious as we see more actions like this. But this is the first time in maybe 50 years that Republicans are actually taking action in favor of hard pro-life stances. Now, I know many on the left will screech and say, what? Republicans have been opposing our laws and policies. Yes. Hold on. I know the Republicans oppose pro-choice and pro-abortion legislation, but they've not been enacting the inverse until recently. Probably because of Roe v. Wade and KCV Planned Parenthood, has Republicans actually just been slowing down Democrat policies. What I think a lot of Democrats, liberals, and leftists don't understand is that there aren't two sides here. When the left says we want gun control, the right says, okay, but maybe a little bit less. The right isn't coming out and saying repeal the National Firearms Act. The right isn't coming out and saying take away all these gun control bills. They're saying, okay, we'll give you a little bit. Because of this, there's this perception among the left that Republicans are steamrolling them, not realizing they're getting what they want, unfortunately, just slowly. As I look into these laws around abortion and the polls, and as I talk to regular Americans, I have to say the left has lost their minds on this one, for sure. Now, don't get me wrong. I think an outright abortion ban, allowing individuals to sue even the woman involved and charging doctors with a felony, is an extreme end. There is right now only one state that has banned abortion, and they've actually answered many of the left's questions. When you look to the latest abortion ban, they actually say things like rape and incest, yep, you can still get an abortion. Health of the mother, no problem. What they're getting rid of is elective abortion. Now, when you take a look at the actual data on abortion in the US, you will be shocked. First, abortion was almost entirely illegal in this country before Roe v. Wade. Also, 81%, I believe the number, of people in this country as of 2018 oppose late-term abortion. Now, if that's the case, why are Democrats going to the other extreme end? I'm not convinced anyone who is a normal American, a regular, moderate, middle-of-the-road American, is being served by bills like Oklahoma's or by Colorado's. But get this. I believe it's seven states that have no restrictions at all on abortion. That is to say, moments before giving birth, they can kill the baby. But most Americans don't agree with that. Now, if it's true that most Americans don't agree with that, how is it that there are more states that allow that than ban it? Because even then, you have a large percentage of states, a large number of states in this country that allow abortion at viability. So if 81% want restrictions at viability, why aren't the people being served? I believe it's because the left is and has been gaining ground and taking what they want, and there's been a spineless Republican Party that has not pushed back. Well, here's the problem. You're not going to get that middle of the road, especially not in these days. I think all that's going to happen is both sides will hyperpolarize. And as we discuss the potential for a major conflict, peaceful divorce, or potentially civil war, I think let's do a deep dive into these bills. When I read the Wikipedia for abortion in the U.S., it was a major red pill. I think this is going to blow your minds. I think most of you who watch this consider yourself to be fairly moderate, maybe moderate left or moderate right-leaning. Many people who are disaffected liberals, many people from the Midwest, similar people to me. It's probably why you like Elon Musk, but not everybody agrees. Some of you probably disagree. Wait until you see the data on this stuff, and you'll be shocked to discover exactly what's going on in this country under all of our noses. Because I'm sure you're a regular person. I'm sure you're saying, look, I think abortion should be the woman's choice, but at a certain point, maybe viability, we should protect the life of the baby as well because we want to be reasonable and we don't want babies just to be killed. Wait till you see the data. Maybe then you might be like, yo, the Democrats have lost the plot. That's where I'm at. That's completely where I'm at. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com, become a member if you want to support our work. As a member, you'll get access to exclusive segments from the Timcast IRL podcast Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m. Not family-friendly shows, a lot of swearing, adult conversations. It's fun. It's like Timcast After Dark. You don't want your kids listening to this one. So as people put up the regular show on their radios while they're driving their kids to work or, listening at home, the website version, not so family friendly. We'll also be supporting our journalists who are doing deep dives on these articles. You're supporting our mission and our infrastructure. So don't forget, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Let's read that first story from timcast.com. Oklahoma governor signs law banning abortion from moment of conception. The state now has the strictest abortion law in the nation. Now, what I find fascinating here is that it seems they've addressed every argument from the left. The only argument the left has now is we want elective abortion. Now, that's where things get interesting. Take a look. The law, House Bill 4327, went into effect immediately upon signing and bans abortions unless the procedure is necessary to save the life of the mother or is the result of rape or sexual assault or incest. That has been reported to law enforcement. Now, I personally don't agree with that because I think the risk is you will get false reports. That's dangerous. I also think, there are tough questions around the privacy of the woman that the Supreme Court that enacted, initially drafted the Roe v. Wade decision. I think they made some interesting points. They even discussed viability. I'm not going to pretend to have all the moral answers for you, so let's just talk policy. Removing a miscarried fetus or ectopic pregnancy will not be considered an abortion. Quote, I promised to Oklahomans that as governor, I would sign every piece of pro-life legislation that came across my desk, and I am proud to keep that promise today. From the moment life begins at conception is when we have a responsibility as human beings to do everything we can to protect the baby's life and the life of the mother. That is what I believe, and that is what the majority of Oklahomans believe. If other states want to pass different laws, that is their right, but in Oklahoma, we will always stand up for life. Similar to the Texas Heartbeat Act, the bill will allow individuals to file civil lawsuits against anyone who performs or aids and abets an abortion. I can only assume that means the woman who's actually pregnant. The legislation says the plaintiff must be awarded injunctive relief sufficient to prevent the defendant from violating this act or engaging in acts that aid or abet violations of this act, and statutory damages in an amount not less than $10,000 for each abortion that the defendant performed or induced in violation of this act. And for each abortion performed or induced in violation of this act that the defendant aided or abetted, the guilty party will also be responsible for the plaintiff's attorney's fees and potentially compensation for any emotional distress they were subject to. Interesting. I imagine that means if you're a woman and you're pregnant and you go to the doctor, you're aiding and abetting in that abortion. The law will not prohibit Plan B, morning after pills, or any other type of contraception or emergency contraception. Last week, the White House issued a statement condemning the ultra-MAGA officials behind the legislation. We also know, outside of this, Oklahoma governor signs bill making it a felony to perform an abortion. Now, that's not quite, that hasn't been enacted yet. That will be going into effect sometime this summer. They say over at NBC, under the bill, anyone convicted of performing an abortion would face up to 10 years in prison. The first thing I want to say is, you need to understand the definition of abortion. To make things clear, I want to read for you the CDC's definition of abortion. They say, for the purpose of surveillance, a legal induced abortion is defined as an intervention performed by a licensed clinician within the limits of state regulations that is intended to terminate a suspected or known ongoing intrauterine pregnancy that does not result in a live birth. Most states and reporting areas that collect abortion data report if abortion was medical or surgical. Medical abortions are legal procedures that use medications instead of surgery. That is to say, if a woman is pregnant with a viable baby, an abortion would mean killing that baby. Now, the reason I would say killing as opposed to terminating the pregnancy, pre-viability, The baby cannot survive on its own. Now, many people argue there's no such thing as viability because babies up to 3 years can't survive on their own either. And the fact that newborn babies require formula or breast milk also suggests they aren't capable of surviving on their own. But that's getting a little nitpicky. I think for the purpose of a discussion on the adoption of rights, I think it's important to say when the baby can live outside the mother, we have a question that needs to be answered. A 10-year-old's not going to survive on its own. You put a 10-year-old out in the middle of the woods, it's not going to do all that well. You put a 10-year-old in the middle of the city, it's also not going to survive. Homeless people who are adults, many of them get by, albeit not well. But this is the definition of abortion, and it's important to understand. Now, I pulled up this here from USA Today. Who are the extremists? Democrats refuse to say if they'd put any limits on abortion. Eric Adams made that point. Many others have made similar points. I want to talk to you about what that means. Before we do, let me show you the numbers, give you a general understanding of what's happening in this country. I don't know your stance on abortion, but the reason I think this is relevant is that we may be getting the ruling on Roe v. Wade and Casey v. Planned Parenthood, or is it Planned Parenthood v. Casey? I don't know, one or the other. I believe that will be Roe and Casey, we'll put it that way. This could be next week. Could be any Monday. We don't know. The Supreme Court has, we know there's that leaked opinion. I decided to look at what the state's laws were. Abortion in the United States makes it very easy. This may actually blow your mind. Take a look at this map. For those that are just listening, I'll explain it to you. We have a color-coded map showing you each state and their abortion laws. There is only one state where abortion is illegal. And that's not even fair to say. Abortion availability in the U.S. by fetal gestational age. In Oklahoma, Wikipedia's chart shows it as illegal, except they still allow abortion in many circumstances. Well, okay, ectopic pregnancy, yes. Medical for the life of the mother, yeah, they allow that. Rape and incest, where charges are filed, they do. So it's actually not illegal. They actually allow abortion all throughout viability. But are we talking about elective abortion? Yes. And Wikipedia actually breaks that down. Take a look at this. The purple color code is no restrictions. That's Oregon. That's Colorado. You have Alaska. You have New Jersey, Vermont, Maryland, D.C. And I believe, is this New Mexico? I think it's New Mexico. I always mix up Mexico. Yeah, it's New Mexico, right? I mix up that in Arizona. No restrictions. That means up to the point of birth, a viable baby for no reason can be killed. I want to stress that. When they say Oklahoma, it's illegal. They are not talking about medical, rape, incest, assault, etc. They're talking about elective abortion in all of this. This means in 7 jurisdictions, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 jurisdictions because we're including DC. Up to the point of birth, you can terminate the life of the baby. Elective abortion. Now here's what's really fascinating. Let me scroll down and show you where Americans stand on these issues according to the polls. Then I'll go back and show you why people are getting abortions. This one really blew my mind. A CNN USA Today Gallup poll in 2003 asked about the legality of abortion by trimester. Using the question, do you think abortion should generally be legal or generally illegal during each of the following stages of pregnancy? They've continued these polls going up to 2018. So, for the sake of relevance, let's use the 2018 poll. In the first trimester, 60% of people said it should be legal. 34% said illegal. Wow. A third of people think that you should not be allowed to have an abortion in the first trimester. Take a look at this. Within the second trimester, it more than inverts. Only 28% of people polled thought it should be legal in the second trimester. 65% said illegal. And in the third trimester, 81% said illegal. 7 states and DC have no restriction. If 81% of people think that should not be, then why it be? They accuse me, these smear pieces. They're like, Tim Pool's obsessed with late-term abortion. I'm not obsessed with it. They say it never happens. Yeah, I don't care if it happens. I'm talking about policy and polling. I'm talking about politics, not medical procedures. I am asking you, why is it illegal if most people don't want it to be, and it never happens? That I find very strange. By circumstances or reasons, This one's fascinating. In 2021, legal under any circumstances, 32. Legal under only certain circumstances, like Oklahoma, for instance, 48. And illegal in all, 19. Now, this is where things get really interesting, because we're talking about 67% of people who think the country should be like Oklahoma. Look at this. Legal only under certain circumstances. In Oklahoma, you can't have an elective abortion. That means no reason. And that's actually what we have. Most people don't want that. That's crazy to me when you look at the polling. This is what they're not telling you. They try and use various polls to say most people believe it should be legal within a certain time frame to claim they're pro-choice, but most people mean legal under certain circumstances. Wikipedia in their map actually says Oklahoma is illegal, even though Oklahoma is illegal in certain circumstances. Breaking down exactly what people mean is difficult, and that I understand. But let's take a look at what they say the reason for abortion was. Reasons contributing to an abortion. 25.5% want to postpone childbearing. 21.3% cannot afford a baby. 14.1% has relationship problem or partner does not want this. 12.2% is too young. 10.8% having a child would disrupt education. 7.9% want no more children. Only 3.3% is the risk to fetal health. 2.8% is a risk to maternal health. 2.1% other. Of those who get late-term abortions, 71% said woman did not recognize she was pregnant or misjudged gestation. To me, that's kind of crazy. That people, 71% of late-term abortions are like, oops, I didn't know. Let's take a look at definitions. This one was a major red pill for me. From Wikipedia's abortion section, induced. They say over 1/3 are unintended and about 1/5 end in induced abortion. Most abortions result from unintended pregnancies. In the UK, 1 to 2% of abortions are done due to genetic problems in the fetus. A pregnancy can be intentionally aborted in several ways, yada yada, only 1 to 2%. When I saw these numbers, I feel like it was a major red pill moment because I consider myself pro-choice. And that is to say, a woman should make the decision if she should have an abortion, but I believe there should be restrictions. So I think Oklahoma goes too far. I think most of these states actually, well, I shouldn't say most, many of them probably hit it on the head. And it's a real moral challenge. If the baby can't survive on its own, there's a lot of issues pertaining to abortion that I just think is not, it's hard to know when the government should be involved. And it's a very difficult moral question I don't have the answers to. I can't even pretend to give you a good argument. It's more of an emotion. That's really all it is. I think life begins at conception, but I believe there are challenges faced by individuals, have discussions with their doctors. Now, here's the challenge for me. I despise elective abortion. I do. It's emotional. That's the only answer I can give you. By all means, I have no answer. That's it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend for tribal reasons I'm pro-life, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend I have good reasons for being pro-choice. But if you take a look at this map, you can see many states, 20 weeks, 22 weeks, 24 weeks. This is well beyond what Europe allows. Europe basically bans abortion at 12. We have one state that's around 6 weeks, just one. And I think it's Texas, which is 15. Is it Texas? And then you have, what is this, Mississippi? That is 20 weeks. So look. These, for the most part, except for Texas and Oklahoma, are less restricted than Europe is. Now, you take a look at all of these states that look blue on this map. California, Nevada, Washington, even Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Minnesota, Illinois. Viability. They allow elective abortion at viability. Let me show you what's crazy. If you look at this map, pre-Roe v. Wade, most states, it was illegal. That's so crazy to me. In the states that are yellow, it was legal in the case of danger to women's health, rape, incest, or likely damaging the fetus. So California, pre-1973, was like Oklahoma is now. Now, I'm not saying we should go back in time or anything like that. Alaska used to be legal on request. New York was, and Washington was pre-Roe v. Wade. Hawaii was. I just think it's a major red pill. So let's go back to this article. Who are the extremists? Democrats refused to say if they'd put any limits on abortion. Eric Adams said he wouldn't. Tim Ryan said he wouldn't. Joe Biden said he wouldn't. They've all said women's choice, women's choice, women's choice, women's choice. But most Americans don't want that. I mean, I think you were to ask the average person if they were pro-choice, they might say they were. But then when you get into the nuance of it, even at 9 months, 8 months, 8.5, 7, then they say, whoa, I don't know about that. I was talking to a friend of mine in New York, and he said he was pro-choice. And he said he liked Trevor Noah, and Trevor Noah gave him an argument that it should be the choice of the individual, not even the states. And I said, what do you mean by pro-choice? And he was like, it's like within a certain amount of time, I guess the woman should make the decision. And I said, what if the baby can survive outside of the mother? And he was like, well, I mean, you shouldn't kill it. And then I was like, right. Yeah, see, Democrats are proposing you can. And I've repeatedly asked about this. Take a look at this from PolitiFact, even PolitiFact. Kathy Tran, quote, right now, women are able to access an abortion in the later stages of their pregnancy under certain conditions with approval of their medical doctors. I've done nothing to change that. PolitiFact, false. This is amazing. PolitiFact says false. False. Kathy Tran, if you're not familiar, proposed a bill that would allow elective abortion up to the point the woman was giving birth. The bill failed, probably because that's insane, but they are trying. Now, I'm not saying these things happen all that often. They don't. It is rare. I've never argued it was common. My question is, why are you trying to make it legal? So they go on to say that right now in Virginia, 3 doctors have to certify the abortion is necessary. Under Kathy Tran's bill, 1. Brett Baer presses Tim Ryan on late-term abortions. And who said, you've got to leave it up to the woman? No, you don't. If the baby can survive, there is no reason to kill it. Now, for all those people who say, it never happens, I give you Andy No, who tweets, Jennifer Thompson is an extremist abortion and BLM activist in Portland, has shared in graphic detail her recent decision to end the life of her viable baby at nearly 7 months of pregnancy. She was an attendee of the Antifa riots in 2020. Portland abortion and BLM activist says that close to 28 weeks of pregnancy, she had a procedure done at Oregon Health and Science University where an injection was used to stop her daughter's heart. From there, she went into labor to expel the girl. That's an abortion. Abortion is defined, as I showed you at the CDC, termination of a pregnancy that does not result in a live birth. That means she could have terminated the pregnancy in a way that delivered the baby and the baby could have been put in an ICU and survived. No, she terminated a viable baby's life. I am just asking the question and bringing up these issues. Most people don't want that. So why is it legal? Now I can say, if you're Oregon or you live in one of these blue states, at this point, my attitude has been less federal power. When Roe v. Wade, they say Roe v. Wade may be overturned, and actually Roe and Casey, allowing it in some stages, I'm actually, that's pretty much where I'm at. I don't think it should be completely illegal. Although again, I don't have all the answers. It's tough, right? I just sit here dumbfounded half the time, and I'll admit it. I'm like, bro, I don't know. I've heard the arguments and good ones too, especially from the pro-life crowd, and they've shifted my opinion on a lot of things. But I still hit this emotional feeling of like imagining being told by the government you have to have someone else in your body. I know. Agree or disagree, talk. That's a strong, strange position, I got to say. But looking at where we're headed, civil war. I say it, I know, people don't like it. What's the solution? Should the federal government tell states like Oregon that allow this, they can't allow this anymore? Should the federal government tell most of these states that had it illegal that they must allow it? Or should the states be allowed to make their own decisions? If you don't want the abortions to happen, what do? This is what led to the first Civil War. It's not so easy to say, just don't go there. Many pro-abortion activists are saying, if you don't want an abortion, don't get one. If you don't like abortion, leave the state. Not understanding the actual argument. The argument is that you are killing the innocent. That's it, you're killing the innocent. They say, how could you be pro-life and pro-death penalty? Because people who get the death penalty are not innocent. That's really it. Now, some people call me out because I don't like the death penalty either. My issue is if you can prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, I'm actually not against the death penalty outright. I just don't trust the government to prove guilt. I think they lie, cheat, and steal. I think People can forfeit their lives if they're engaged in certain actions like threatening others, causing violence. It happens in war. Again, I don't have all the answers. What I can say is I'm looking at this and I'm seeing the hyperpolarization. Taking away federal authority from the issue may help stave off some of this escalation of violence, but it will not be a long-term solution. You know, I talked about this for the past several days about the start of the Civil War, 1860. You had slave states and you had free states. The slave states were angry that they were subjected to federal authority because the North wasn't. They had the Fugitive Slave Act, where the North was supposed to be returning slaves that had escaped. They were not. The South said, why should we abide by federal authority if the North won't? There was no good answer. So they said, okay, then we secede. Abraham Lincoln became president when 7 states had already seceded. And he said, no, I reject this, and started trying to occupy these federal forts or refusing to leave them. Fighting breaks out. Then many more states seceded from the Union. The issue was no one was satisfied with what other states were doing. Now, the war was mostly about stopping secession. Well, let me clarify that. The war started, but the animosity, the fight, and the moral values behind it was about slavery. What I mean to say is, if there was no effort to seize federal forts, secession would have happened. So the fighting started because of these forts. But the South and the North was like, what you are doing in your state is wrong. The South said, what you are doing in your state is wrong. You're supposed to return to us, these slaves. And of course, slavery was wrong. The point was, neither was satisfied with just being left alone. When the South said, we'll secede and mind our own business because the North wasn't agreeing to the terms anyway, the North was like, we're not giving up these weapons. So if right now we ban abortion in the United States and the blue states, Oregon, California, or even Alaska, which is more conservative, if they secede, I don't know what Alaska would do in a civil war. That'd be funny, or Hawaii. But if they do, is it going to be Donald Trump who says this is illegitimate and no, you can't? Because it's these states that say we should be allowed to do this thing. They're saying that under federal law, red states are supposed to allow abortion. And then Oklahoma says, no, we're banning it. And they say, but you're defying federal law. Sound familiar? Here's another article from Fox News. MSNBC host slams idiot GOP lawmaker for committee questions on late-term abortion. Planned Parenthood's Dr. Colleen McNicholas said Republicans are trying to sow distrust in public health officials. Guest host Katie Fang discussed the Supreme Court decision. I think do you support the right of a woman who is just seconds away from birthing a healthy child to have an abortion? She said, I think the question that you're asking does not realistically reflect abortion care in the United States. Full stop. Don't care. Sophistry, manipulation, deceit, and evil. The question needs to be answered because many Democrats have said they should allow it and the law would if passed. Democrats tried passing that. They don't want to answer because they know we, the American people, 81% oppose it, and there is no reason to legalize it. When you are looking at Oklahoma that has made it illegal, if you have a baby that is ectopic, if you have severe medical issues, they will allow you to abort the baby. So this needs to be answered. They don't answer it because they don't have the answers. From The Verge. Democrats say Google must curb location tracking before Roe repeal. Imagine this. Imagine slavery was alive today. And a slave state said, Google should stop tracking the people who are keeping slaves. The North outlaws slavery. And so they say before slavery is outlawed, you need to stop people who are still engaging in the practice. Now, I'm sure the left will say, no, it should be the other way around. The other way around. It should be, they would be tracking the slaves escaping. No. They're saying the women who are going to terminate the life of a baby, denying personhood to this human being, should not be tracked. That would be akin to a slave owner saying they should not be tracked, or the slaves they have, so that you don't know what they're doing. The left wants to argue that they're the good guys, but as many pro-lifers point out, everyone in the United States throughout history who has tried to deny personhood rights to a human has lost. That's true. But hey, conservatives, says a lot about what's going to happen with constitutional rights and civil rights for trans people, too. I don't know where we're going to end up, but boy, is this country fractured. Absolutely is. Roe v. Wade. Large employers face tough hurdles to provide abortion benefits if Roe is overturned. Do you know why corporations are providing funding for women to get abortions? I think it's disgusting. A woman who gets pregnant can't work, so they'd rather just have her abort the baby and keep working. That's not how we do things at timcast.com. Over at Timcast, if a woman gets pregnant, I just say, okay, well, let us know when you're ready to work again. Seriously. Yeah, our policy here is both parents should be allowed parental leave, man and woman. A woman who decides to have a child, I will personally keep paying and keep her on payroll, and she can do what she can do until she can't do it. Then she can have as much time as she needs within reason. I mean, come on, let's be reasonable. But we have no set guidelines on that. We also allow people unlimited sick time. If you're sick, bro, don't come to work. I don't want to get sick. I like working. So if you get sick, just don't show up. Do what you can from where you can, but take care of yourself. Because I jokingly say we are very lefty on a lot of these issues. We are not capitalist. We are not slave drivers. Maybe that's not even about left or right. I don't want a person to get an abortion so they can just keep working. What she does is her own business, and it's not for a decision for me to make. If someone who worked for me was pregnant, I'm not going to say anything. It's personal business. It's between you and your doctor. That's my view. And probably your husband or the father of the child. But if someone came to me and said, what am I going to do? Because I really want to have this baby, I'd be like, don't stress about it. You're going to keep getting a paycheck. You're going to stay on salary. There's no leave. There's no departure. There's literally nothing will change. Just come in when you can come in. That's my policy. Why? I think it's good that people have kids and have families. I encourage people to bring their kids to the workplace within reason. Because having a bunch of young kids running around, all, crazy, you can't do it all the time. But I understand sometimes people I need daycare or I can't. I'm like, no, bring your kid. Your kid should see work. Your kids should see real life. I think this stuff is disgusting. They're doing it because they want to make money. This is the disgusting notion of capitalism. The people who are just absolutely, free market absolutists, this is what you get. You get stuff like this. I'm not about that. Not me, man. So here we go. Where will this bring us come November? Where will this bring us come 2024? Donald Trump gets elected, signs a federal abortion ban. Blue states say we won't comply. The government says you'll have to. Goes in, starts shutting down abortion clinics. Maybe there won't be a civil war, to be completely honest. Because I feel like, will we see state-level militia governance fighting stand up? Maybe not. Maybe not in blue states, but who knows, man? Maybe. You look at these cops in these places, they tend to be more conservative, but will they stay or will they go? And if they do go, who will replace them? Will there be a National Guard in each state that defies the federal government? That's a question, man. That is a big question. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.